I'm going to talk about my Shadow Hybrid Summoner build. In this build we use Shadowblight, and then we also use our minions, and we just kind of brawl with our minions until everything's dead. We decrepify everything we can, so if you see any target when you're playing this build that doesn't have the decrepify effect on the feet, just go decrepify them. If it's a fly, go decrepify them, doesn't matter. And then the reason we want everything decrept is so that we get our cooldowns back faster. And then the next thing we're going to do on an engage is use our cooldown. So we're going to use the golem first just to get him in there in the fight. Sometimes the golem will wait outside the fight for no reason. So just use the golem's ability, make him go in, and then use the bone storm, and then you yourself jump in the fight. You want to jump in so that your bone storm's hitting the most amount of targets it can consecutively and at the same time, and that's just going to give you your barrier and keep it up all the time at max. The next thing you're going to do is spam your severs. We spam severs at whatever we want to have die, and that could be a damage reduce aura person or an elite, whatever you want to kill. Throw the severs at it, and usually you want the severs to go behind the pack, and then it's going to come back and hit them again on the way back. And then you can even like line yourself up and have the sever come back to you, and you're standing in front of an enemy, and then it's going to hit that enemy on its way back too. So after the severs, you're going to do corpse explosion to get your essence back. Here we're using Black River, so we're going to get our essence back insanely fast when we're doing this, because we make so many corpses. I just threw in Black River to eat the corpses before they despawn, because I'm pretty sure there's a max limit of how many corpses you can have on the screen, and then after that it will just start despawning them. So with Black River, we will eat up most of the corpses. So after that, you just rinse and repeat. Put Decrepify back on them, start the severs again, and then use corpse explosions when you don't have essence, and use your cooldowns whenever they're ready. When there's like one enemy left, you might want to save Bone Storm if it comes off cooldown, just because you won't get it back in time for the next pack. And one thing I wanted to show was that when everything's really close together, you just demolish it. I wish I could fit corpse tendrils on here, but since the golem and the skeletons are on a different skill, it's really hard to fit extra skills in there. And here I wanted to showcase a fire enchanted, because fire enchanted, you can't really deal with them with minions usually, but I specifically had a few things in this build so that my minions don't die or even get that hurt by fire enchanted. And you can see my minions are like, they'll take a lot of damage, but they'll get their health back shortly after. And then with suppressors, you usually want to go behind them just to make your mages walk in them. Like you just keep walking until you see your mages move, and then they'll usually get in the circle. So like here, you can see all the blue and orange numbers. I'm not really sure what this is from. I'm pretty sure it's like when my Bone Storm overpowers, then the rest of the duration it's supposed to overpower, but sometimes I've seen that and then it goes away, and I'm pretty sure your corpse explosion can't overpower, so I don't know what that is, but you'll see that sometimes, just random overpower numbers, because we're putting out so many instances damage. And like there, I got my mages in the bubble, and then it just helps you get that extra. Here really quickly, I'm going to go over the build and in the planner. So we just take like 2 points in hemorrhage. We have Sever with the Paranormal Sever so we can make vulnerable targets. We have Hued Flesh for corpses. Corpse Explosion with Blighted Corpse Explosion so we can proc Shadowblight more often. Spiked Armor so we have a non-zero amount of thorns, and then we can decrep more often. Skeletal Warrior and Mage Mastery just so they have more health. It's an easy way to get them more health. Grim Harvest so we get our essence back when we use Corpse Explosion. And then Fueled by Death because we're going to be eating a lot of corpses. Death's Embrace because we're jumping into enemies, so this works because they deal less damage to us and we deal more damage to them. Amplify because we're using Decrepify, and then Important Decrepify because we want our Bone Storm to get off cooldown and our Golem. And then for Shadow passes we use Gloom and Terror at max. Crippling Darkness doesn't matter, I just put it there because I like seeing the stun. You can take these points out and put them in Hellbent or even Inspiring Leader if you want, or anywhere else you want to see more points. And Reaper's Pursuit, you can add the points from Crippling Darkness if you want more movement speed. Necrotic Card Base, we use that because we're going to be generating corpses from the Reapers and from all of our abilities that proc Hued Flesh, so we're going to have a lot of Fortify. And of course we're using Bone Storm and then the Supreme Bone Storm, so we get the extra crit chance while we're using it, and Prime Bone Storm so we can tank when we're jumping in. These two are the most important for these four because Bond and an Essence allows you to heal your Golem and your minions for 70% of their max life. Death's Defense allows your minions to take really high damage hits and just tank it. So like when a fire enchanted explodes, it probably does a bazillion damage or something, and then it will just do 30%. It will cap it at 30% of their health. So that's good to have. And Shadowblight, we use that of course, so we can get our Shadowblight procs from all of the other darkness skills that we picked. To go over the gear really quick, I'm using Bone Storm Barrier, the Bubble aspect, Howling from Below, Disobedience on my pants, and then Disobedience is like max stacks always because we're doing so many instances of damage. The Warriors are on my boots. Shadowblight's increased Shadowblight's damage is on my wand, and then I put the important Shadowblight one. To me this is more important because it's 120% multiplicative for all your damage, whereas this one's just Shadowblight's damage. And then I put that one on my focus because I tend to switch my focus a lot less when I'm upgrading. And also this passive can go on your amulet. I usually pick the mages so I have an extra mage, and it just helps with my cold, because I'm not sure if it helps freeze faster, but it does help this when something is frozen and then your cold mages hit it, then it's going to make that target vulnerable. So this will help because you're going to have an extra mage throwing the attacks at frozen targets. We use the Bone Storm as a darkness skill as our aspect on our ring. And then for the second ring, you can put wherever you want here. I just use the accelerating aspect because more attack speed we have, the more time we have to do stuff, because we can do everything faster. We'll get more severs out, and then we can get corpse exposing, get our essence back. And since our attack speed's fast, we can just burn all the severs. Real quick, I'm going to go over the minions. So I always choose Reapers, and I always choose this for this build. I don't think there's other skeletal warriors that are worth it. Cool. Mages with this passive are probably my favorite, just because you get more vulnerable all the time. Cold mages with this, you can pick this if you're struggling with essence. If you don't have Black River, you might be struggling with essence just because you can't use all the corpses fast enough, but usually this one's better. And then you can also swap this to Shadow, and then you do the fire an additional bolt every 5th attack. That one's really nice, but I just like cold because the freeze is nice and then vulnerable. For blood golem, I always do the 15% of damage you would take because it just is so strong. I don't know, it's not damage reduction, it's something else, because I've been in like a tier 69 dungeon trying to run the bone golem, and then I'm getting one shot by something, and then I'll die, come back, swap to blood, and use this ability, and that thing won't even take a 1/4 of my health away. And I'm like, that's doing something else. But if you're pushing, you have to pretty much use this, or else you're gonna get one shot by a lot of stuff. And if you're not pushing, you just use this one to get extra health on your bone golem. And then the main thing you want from your bone golem is the ability. So you want it to taunt and group things together, and then you also want it to just slash a bunch of enemies with its AoE basic attack. The bone, I think, is the only one that does that, but for the most part you could just stick on blood. And to just have a quick description for each of these, Howl from Below build is just one unique, and it's Howl from Below. The Mendel, Howl, and River is the Black River with Mendel and Howl from Below. And then I shifted the aspects around, so Shadowblight's increased Shadowblights is on your focus now, and then the Shadowblight increases all is on your amulet to boost it up, and then your mages will be on your chest, and then warriors on their feet, of course. But with this one, keep in mind you don't have the bubble aspect, so don't push with this one. And then if you want the bubble, I made another one where I shifted them around. You have Mendelin's, Black River, and Howl, and then you put the Shadowblight, increases all damage on the focus still, and then you keep the mages, and you just don't get the Shadowblight, increases Shadowblight. This is because that aspect only works on weapons, focus, and gloves, and a ring. So if you use Mendelin and Black River, you have to sacrifice this or the Shadowblight increases Shadowblight. I would recommend just putting the Shadowblight increases Shadowblight here if you want. But Bone Storm does proc a lot of instances of damage when you're doing this build, so it's hard to tell which one's better. But if you only use Black River or Mendelin, if you're not using both of those, then you can fit all the aspects fine, so no worries. And then of course the bubble's up there. So for the no uniques, if you don't have any uniques, I made this just to see if you want to try the build without a unique. I tried it myself. This is what I was running before I got Howl from Below, and it's pretty nice. The one thing you're gonna have to do is you want to run a bone golem, and then you want to use the taunt before anything, even before you decrepify, and then it will group them up a little bit, and then at least that will help your corpse explosions hit some stuff. Whereas with Howl from Below, it doesn't matter where they are because your corpses are going to run to the targets. And then I made a shield build if you want to try it. I don't like it. I think you would only use this if you're pushing because it takes your damage down so much with the shield. But it is nice having another utility or defense aspect space. And yeah, that's about it. One thing I did want to mention really quick, there's this other aspect called something, but it heals you for enemies close to you. I think it's pretty rare. I haven't seen it much, but if you do have a god roll of this, and I do mean a god roll, it has to be like something that dropped at 820 plus, and then you upgrade it 5 times, and then maybe it might be worth it. Because if this thing's like 700 item power or like 600 item power, it's gonna say something like you heal 10 health per second, or something way lower than 100, and then at that point it's not worth it, in my opinion, because it's just so little amount. But if it's maxed out, I tried it, I didn't have it maxed out, but mine was like 90 life per second, and I could see it, and it did reduce the amount of potions I use. If you want to check, in the very first clip of this video I was using that, and you can see my health like hop up when I'm fighting everybody, and it synergized pretty well with the build. So I just wanted to let everybody know if they want to try that. And otherwise you just use the bubble, because the bubble will make you immune. So if you're poisoned, the bubble's going to take it away. If you're CC'd, the bubble's going to help you survive. And for the paragons, it's a pretty wonky paragon board, but it does the job good enough. So we're using darkness on the first board, and then control on the second, gravekeeper on the third. Then we go right into hulking monstrosity with exploit, and dead razor on cult leader, of course, and then we get wither at the very end. The wither just helps our shadow damage do more damage, and that's why I wanted it, but I didn't want all the wither nodes because they're not too powerful, but I did want a lot of these. If you want, you can get rid of the hulking monstrosity board and just fill in wither, or just get a tiny bit of wither and then get a bunch of cult leader with the points you save from hulking monstrosity. Also, you could take this point out. There's 45 intelligence. You get 89 damage to crowd control, which is going to be your decrepit people. If you take that point out, you still have the bonus requirement met, and then it drops it like 10%. We could put this like here or anywhere else you think might be good. There's a few other points you can shift around, but for the most part, I think they're all pretty optimized for what I want the build to be doing. If you do take out points and you, like if you get rid of hulking monstrosity, I would fill in like these nodes and these nodes. And if you don't want to lean on the minions at all, I'd go grab like some armor nodes from here. It's only 3 points away. And then yeah, there's a few other places you can go grab stuff, but for the most part, I think it's pretty good for what I wanted. Got 5 glyphs, 6 boards, good enough. If your minions are dying, you want to make your gear affixes, so like these bonuses you have on your gear, you want these to be maximum minion life. And if you're dying, you want maximum life. The reason we want maximum life is because the more maximum life you have, the bigger capacity your barrier has, because it can only go up to your max life. So this is basically plus 1,300 life, and then you're gonna have more barrier when you max it out. That's also why we're using rubies. Topaz is fun, but we don't need it too much. You can swap these rubies for like 1 topaz if you want, and then just have like a ruby topaz, and then a ruby. But it doesn't matter too much. The more life you have, the better you're gonna be tanking. Anyways, well, that's all I had. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.